So welcome everyone. I'm excited and really energized to be here this afternoon with you all. I have a few of my favorite colleagues from Merck with me today. So we're going to demystify the pharmaceutical industry for you. Before we go through our program, I want to go through some housekeeping rules. So again, as Kevin mentioned, this is being recorded. So let's be on our best behavior. That's for both sides, Merck and the NACME scholars. Please turn on your cameras, be camera ready. They always say stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So you knew this was happening. So I don't want to hear anybody just finished working out or they have their pajamas on. It's 3 o'clock, so we should be ready for the day. We will unmute everyone when it's time for Q&A. And then make sure that you complete the survey at the end of this webinar. So we really are interested in hearing your feedback. So before we get started with the panel, I'll give an overview of who I am. My name is Elise Grace. I am a NACME scholar. I currently work at Merck as an Associate Director of External Manufacturing, and I'll be moderating the panel. We have some esteemed panelists here today who have spent time to come and share with you guys. So we really want you guys to engage and ask questions. I'm gonna show you guys a video, a Merck video before we jump into the panel introductions. So give me 1 second.
We try to remember that medicine is for the patient. We try never to forget that medicine is for the people. It is not only for the profits. The profits follow. And if we have remembered that, they have never failed to appear.
Great. So now I will have our panelists introduce themselves. They're going to go through a little bit of background. Again, I'm the moderator. I won't take up much time here, but I really want to get into the panelists. We have some great panelists here for you today. So Anna, I'll turn it over to you. Do your intro.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Elise. So my name is Anna Smith, and I started out my career as a makeup artist. So for the first 6 years of my career, I was an entrepreneur, and I lived in France for 3 years. So I speak French fluently, and I went to a school called Makeup Forever. And then I transitioned back to the US, where I worked as a makeup artist and consultant for about 6 years between New York and Miami. So at that time, I never imagined that I would be actually working in a technical field or working in pharma. So I went from makeup artistry, where I worked for 6 years, and I met someone along the way who was a chemical engineer who worked at a pharmaceutical company, and he had invented his own product, beauty product actually. And I was very inspired by his ingenuity, and I decided that that was it for me. And I went back to school full time, starting at 24 and leaving school when I was 30 actually, to launch my career at Merck. And along the way, I worked as a chemical engineer for semiconductor companies, mostly doing research and development. I traveled to Idaho. I worked at Micron for a summer. I worked at TEL in Albany, New York, and I did research at Stanford. I landed some work in I landed a PhD position at Carnegie Mellon, and things didn't quite work out there. But along the way, I was networking, and I met my former boss at Merck, who actually inspired me to leave the program and join pharmaceuticals. And it was something completely unexpected, but led to a very fulfilling and interesting career here at Merck.
Thank you, Anna. Danila?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am extremely excited and thrilled to be here and pretty much share a little bit of how I came about to be at Merck. I know that this is a little blurry, but I can kind of walk you through a little bit of my background. I have a background in biomedical engineering from Rutgers University, and I'm currently a part-time MBA student. Pretty much my career definitely started and just took off here at Merck. I started as a contractor 10 years ago with Eurofins, and within 2 years or so, pretty much established myself as a credible scientist and got hired permanently in 2013. Since then, I've had 3 promotions. Recently, my last promotion about a month ago. So I'm currently an associate principal scientist. A lot of other of my background I can really share with you is I am a Mexican immigrant. I came here when I was very young, and it's something I'm very proud of my Latino and Hispanic heritage. And through that, I've always really tried and helped and try to inspire what it is Latino women and Latinos in general to really focus on STEM. And if you do like STEM, to kind of go forward with those streams. I have been doing a lot of what is called mentoring through the Next Gen Network. I participate in different EBRGs at Merck. Next Gen Network is one of them. I've been mentoring for the past 2 years. I mentor incoming interns. The picture right here, actually in the bottom center there, is actually my mentee this past summer. During the pandemic, I kind of got into making masks for my children. I have 2 children, which are pictures above here. So I just started making masks, and I made this really cool, awesome STEM masks, and I sent her one. And not only did I mentor her, I actually had 4 mentees throughout the summer, which I kind of just send them their mask to kind of keep on and keep fighting hard. They're all back in college right now. Really quickly, a picture right here is Mr. Ken Frazier, our company CEO. He is one of the reasons why I still stay so loyal and to Merck, and why I feel this is a great company to work at and to really just just grow your career. And in the middle, it's actually another mentee. Her name is Claudia Hernandez. 3-4 years ago, she was Mr. Ken Frazier's mentee, and I had the privilege to mentor her. Aside from mentoring college students, I'm also really huge on really encouraging young girls to really build empowerment, self-esteem. I've coached my kids' soccer team. But within my career, I guess that I can share is just really, it's grown. Like I said, 3 promotions for the past year. I love the science. I've been in the lab for the past 10 years and just recently moved out. So again, I'm in a new path in my career, and the blend of my engineering background, my scientific experience, and now my MBA is really pushing me to unlimited opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Danila. Jared?
All right, thank you. What's going on, everybody? And Anna, real quick, I did notice your cat eyes when you first joined the call today. So I see your makeup skills are on point. It makes sense. You know, I spent a little time at Sephora getting some things for my wife myself, so I know just a little bit. You know what I mean?
Thanks,
But
Jared.
no, yeah, for sure. Really excited to be here today and talk with you guys. So my name is Jared Brabham. Did my undergrad at Temple University. My background really is operations management. Right now, like Danila, I'm also working on my MBA. I'm at Penn State University. To share a little bit, I guess, of my leadership background, I did play football at Temple University, so really proud of that. Especially, I did it as a walk-on, so I kind of showed up and tried out, and it worked out for me. So I want to finishing my career there, and it allowed me to stay at school. Also member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. So if any Kappa's in the audience, you know, hit me up. Let's connect. Talk to me. And then lastly, before I joined Merck, I was in the Army. So I spent, I pivoted right after school and was a squad leader in an airborne infantry unit. So I was actually skydiving professionally before I came to Merck. So my story, like Anna's, a little unique on how I came to the company, right? My wife is also a Merck employee. And as I was getting done with my time in the service, she was like, hey, like, what are you going to do? You should kind of take a look at Merck. They're really being a veteran. So I got an opportunity to come on board in vaccine manufacturing, right? So operations management is obviously a huge part of what we do here. And I was at the West Point facility working in the vaccine space. So to the bottom left, that's my son. And this is before he got the shot. He was getting a dose of ProQuad, which was manufactured on my shift, like by me and my employees. So like, one of the gratifying things about working in a company like Merck is you literally can see the impact you have on the patients. In this case, it's my son. He's received 2 vaccines that I've had a hand in, both Rota and ProQuad. So, I've been single-handedly, impacting my son and other family members and children of my family. So I appreciate being able to kind of give that back, right? Did 2.5 years in the vaccine manufacturing space. I'll be 4 years in the company this February. Most recently, I'm working in the supplier development performance management space, and I work externally with suppliers to Merck, so where we get our components from, vials, syringes, and ensure that the products that we're getting are quality and on time. So it's a really cool role. You get to travel a lot and really get to network and learn different pros and cons from different suppliers that you get to bring back and put into your toolkit. So we'll learn more about me as we kind of talk, but really happy to be here and share, and excited to talk with you guys today. Thanks.
Thank you, Jared. And last but not least, Monsi.
All right. Hi, everyone. Monsi Rithatha. So I should probably have more photos on here, but the one that I have on here, I have a good hair day at that photo. So don't look at my video, look at the photo. So a little bit about me. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, born and raised. So a proud Southerner in that way, but I'm living my life in the Northeast now. Went to the University of Texas at Austin and studied engineering. But similar to Anna, had maybe a diversity of interests. I originally wanted to be a broadcast journalist, believe it or not. So still aspiring to be the communications leader for Ken Frazier one day, crossing fingers. But I originally came into science and engineering because I had a passion for healthcare and a passion for helping others. And I just really want to understand how things work. And that's what engineers are doing every day is solving problems. So that's why I went to biomedical engineering, and some of the activities that I did in college really revolved around that creativity, but healthcare. I completed the longest charity bike ride in the world. It's 4,500 miles. And the whole purpose of that was to raise money and funds for cancer research. Was also involved in direct therapeutic research in college, and then also took part in music and other activities to really keep that well-rounded element, which I'd encourage each of you to keep as well in your passions and interests. Interned with Merck and joined Merck in 2014. Have been really lucky to have had some phenomenal managers and opportunities here across operations or technical roles, as well as supply chain. I think Merck offers a lot of opportunity to expand into areas that you might not have even imagined for yourself. And then I had the chance to work in the group that Jared mentioned with suppliers. And now I co-lead our leadership development program for manufacturing. So my role today is to help recruit, develop, and accelerate early talent throughout the company. And our program has about 64 students across 17 sites, countries. So it's really exciting to be able to work with young talents such as yourself every day and to get to chat with you today. That's it for me.
Thank you, Monsi. And I just got a notification that my internet's unstable. So if I freeze up, panelists, you know the questions. So keep the party going. But we do have someone else on the call, Phil Bathosky, who's from our HR department. Phil, I don't know if you want to give just a brief introduction. I didn't want to leave you out.
Thank you, Elise. You're far too kind. So I don't have a video on because I do look like a mess, even though I didn't know that this was coming. So sorry, Elise. My name is Phil Rathosky. I've been with Merck for just about 4 years now. And so I am a university relations specialist and recruiter within our R&D space, so our Merck research labs. And I recruit interns, co-ops, postdocs, and entry-level hires across the team.
Thank you, Phil. So now we'll get into our panel segment. And I want to start this first question off really, for you, Monsi, and any one of the other panelists who can answer this question. As students, right, they're in school, they're looking for new opportunities. How can they apply their learnings from the classrooms to the workplace?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. And we see some transformations that everyone goes through when they transition to the workplace. One of the important things that we see is that what you can carry over from school isn't always going to be textbook, right? Some of the things that you might not realize that your professors are challenging you to learn are really what are going to make you the most effective in the workplace. And what that is you might be on a group project with some individuals you love working with and some individuals that are really frustrating to work with. What your professor is challenging you to do is learn how to collaborate, learn how to lead a team, learn how to drive a project forward and meet those deadlines. You're also in college exploring your passions and interests. I think a lot of that is going to be important in the workplace to help keep you motivated and tied to the mission that you're working towards. And that's why it's important to find a company that you really care about what they're doing. And if you're able to keep that mission or that passion that you found in university in what you do every day, it's going to keep you motivated on the good days and the hard days. But maybe one of the bigger transitions I would see is that in academia, I think a lot of times in school, you're in a class and you're given the material or what you need to read or what you need to do to achieve success, right? You're told, here's what you need to learn, come to class every other day, your exam's in 3 weeks, and this is what it's going to be about. In the workplace, when you go in, that's not given to you. We're hiring really amazing individuals such as yourselves because we believe that you're going to be able to give in a problem that you don't fully understand. And you're going to go work with other people and understand what you need to do next to achieve the end goal that you're trying to get to. So really it's about transitioning the mindset from, hey, I have the tools and the knowledge. Now it's more about how do I take a problem where the end goal isn't fully defined or success isn't fully defined. Now, how do I work through all the pieces to get there? And that is definitely a mindset shift to get in the mode of, how do I actively solve a problem versus having that targeted endpoint. Elise, I'll turn to you or any other panelists to add.
Great, I think you answered that dead on, right, Monsi? We're not sitting at our desk with calculators solving thermodynamic problems. Well, depending on where you work, right? If you're in a science environment or but we're not necessarily doing textbook work in our day-to-day jobs. Jared, Danella, Anna, anything to add there?
Sure, I'd say, one of the most useful experiences I had in undergrad, and as it related to my internships and my job in some ways now, which is, I actually work in data science, which is very different from working in on a manufacturing floor or in a wet lab, was the actual chemical engineering labs. I thought were extremely useful because it teaches you how to think like an engineer and like a scientist. And generally they ask you to run some kind of experiment and gather data and then report on that as a team. And so I found that to be something very useful that I took with me into internships. And also my internships were a lot like that lab in some ways. I ran experiments, collected data, presented on that data. So I was able to kind of have this loop of experience, I guess, between that classroom laboratory and also my internship laboratories. And I think that was what really bolstered me in my career in some ways to think about how to set up experiments. And as a data scientist, I set up experiments, not in the lab, but computationally, I think about how, I need a test data set, I need a validation data set, I need a control, right? I need a data set that I can, if I have 3 different pieces of technology, how can I look across those 3 different pieces of technology and say which ones are actually working better? So a lot of that fundamental engineering and scientific way of thinking translates to how you can design the way you do your work in industry.
Great, thank you. So Jared, Danila, you guys mentioned you were in MBA programs or you have an MBA. What would you say to engineering graduate students who are maybe interested or hesitant upon entering an MBA program? And what value do you see in adding this to your professional toolkit?
Sure, I can start. I think there's a lot of questions. Really, you have to look inside, deep inside you, and really see if this is what you want to do. And I think in the beginning, perhaps if you want to graduate with your engineering degree, you might want to go right into an MBA program. Within my case and my experience, it actually took me a really long time to figure out, hey, I need to go back and get a higher degree. But what should I do and why should I do it? And which one would add more value and provide me with more opportunities? I mean, with a with a bachelor's of science in engineering and being in the lab for a really long time, I just knew that perhaps that wasn't for me anymore. So perhaps if you are looking for that MBA program, you have to see if you are in that point of your career where you perhaps need more work experience, or perhaps if that job where you are requires it, and it will open more opportunities for you to really have that extra degree. Obviously, an MBA program really prepares you very differently than an engineering degree will when it comes to, being a critical thinker and problem solving. And then with the MBA, it's a very nice combination. But then again, I think if you do have and question it, go ask people who are MBA students or who have an engineering MBA degree, or ask maybe perhaps if that's the right thing to do right there to move forward with an MBA. But definitely ask questions, not just to yourself if this is the right time to do it and the right thing to do at that moment, but really ask those people around you who have been through that experience to kind of provide you some insights and get their opinions as well.
Thank you. Jared, do you want to share your perspective?
Yeah, definitely agree with Danila. To a point, like I just started, I'm 32. So it took me a while to decide that I wanted to start going back to school. And there's pros and cons to both, right? So like I have a 6-year-old right now. So that's not always ideal when I'm trying to do grad school and, my kid is running around. But in terms of value add, I think for me, it gives me the perspective of like the senior leaders in my organization, right? So even though what we do is science in many cases, right? I was in manufacturing, that still does translate to dollars and cents. So when you can demonstrate or learn that business acumen and that business mindset and that thinking, it can help you when you're implementing some of your engineering problem solving. Like Danil said, it complements very nicely because you're thinking big picture now. So not only are you like, hey, we have a problem, okay, here's how I could solve it. It's more, we have a problem, here's the business impact it's going to have, and here's what my resolution towards that, what that impact will have. And in big company like Merck, so like at the end of the year, we go through a thing called differentiation, and everyone kind of gets evaluated on what they did for the year and what their contribution was. And if you can kind of quantify what you did and the impact that had on the business, that's beneficial for you and your career, right? So it's really, what did I do to drive the business and run the business? And having those tools for me has been extremely helpful. Like I just started, I guess a year ago now, but as soon as I hit, like I was immediately able to apply the lessons learned to what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. And granted, now I'm in supply chain and I'm working a little bit more in the business side, but it can't hurt. It really gives you a wide perspective.
Yeah. I agree. So I was one of the, I got my MBA I started the program 8 months after I graduated from undergrad. And I think the lessons that I learned, I definitely learned a lot in school, but what I think when I talk to kids is, what's your output? What value are you going to get out of it? And how are you going to apply it? and really being intentional about it. I never recommend somebody just to do something just to have a piece of paper hang on their wall. You really want to think about the output, right? I also consider this when I got my postdoctorate degree. So I have a doctor of engineering and engineering management. And I was really intentional when I went to pursue this degree was I want to at some point get into consulting, and I needed that extra credential, right? I felt like I needed that extra push to differentiate me from everyone else in the industry, right? There are a lot of people who have pharmaceutical experience, vaccine experience, supply chain experience, but how am I different? What am I an expert in? And so really think about the outcome and how you want to apply it when you're pursuing any postgraduate degree, right? You don't want to waste your time and just have a piece of paper hanging on your wall. You really want to apply it because these things cost money, right? And so that's really something that you guys should really think about. So thank you, Danila and Jared, for that perspective. So as we think about, leveling up out of school, we go from professors and TAs, and what's the game changer when you get into corporate America? People talk about mentors and sponsors, and there's a difference between the two. So, Anna, Danila, what's the difference between a mentor and a sponsor, and how do they play a role in shaping your career? And if you can share an experience for us on how a mentor or a sponsor has shaped your career.
You want to go first, Anna?
Oh, I thought you could go first.
We're so kind.
I went first last time, so I thought it was only fair.
Okay, thank you. So I think as I kind of in the introduction, I told you how, I've been doing this mentoring for the past 4 years. And I think I want to say within mentoring, it's very important really to find someone who can guide you, perhaps not telling. I think a mentor really serves as someone as a guide, right? As a guide where perhaps a lot of times you are lost in a place where you're new to a new job or something, but really provides you with guidance and advice of perhaps how that mentor has, probably faced a challenge, and they're there to guide you and help you out. And I think, but a sponsor is really going to stand up for you and say, I validate that this person is capable of doing this job, and you should hire this person, and pretty much vouch for you, right? And I can give you an example that I have mentored several mentees over the past 4 years, but in a way, I definitely felt like I have sponsored someone. Recently, somebody who was a mentor this past summer, decided, he wanted to get a job. He found a position, and I pretty much sent out that information to the hiring manager, really saw what he was capable of, and really fought for him and say, this person deserves an opportunity. And pretty much I, as a Merck employee, I am recommending this person to you. So that takes a lot. I think that takes accountability. At that point, a sponsor is holding you accountable for performing and pretty much for following through on a commitment that you wanna start, right? With a mentor, not that they're not gonna bash for you, but I think it's different. I think sponsors definitely go to that extra level to really fight for you and have someone provide you an opportunity because they definitely believe in you. Anna?
Absolutely, yeah. So, wow, this is a big topic, and it's a really important topic. And I guess there's a couple of different ways I could share on this topic. So, going through school as an older student, what I did was a little bit different, I think, than a lot of my colleagues. Because I was older and I had experience in industry, I went out and I networked and I talked to everyone. I went and talked to the Dean of Engineering, and I went and talked to people in the scholarship office, and I reached out to strangers online in the area who worked in industry positions. And I wasn't specifically looking for mentorship. I was just open to the interaction. I just wanted to meet new people and understand what it was that they did. And along that journey, I met Liesl Folks, who was the dean of our engineering school. And she offered to read all of my applications that I sent out for internships and or scholarships. And her, that offer was actually instrumental in a lot of the success that I had in engineering school. She made extremely useful comments on my write-ups and my applications in ways that were unparalleled by the Writing Center and any other like institution that was available through the university. And so because of her, I landed a position and her mentorship, I landed a position at Micron. And at Micron, the person that I was working for whatever reason, did not want to give me a recommendation because he was afraid that if he gave me a recommendation for an academic internship, that the competition would get me. And so that was greatly frustrating. And so I reached out to his boss's boss, Linda Somerville at Micron, and met with her a couple times. And after I met with her, I asked her, you know, would you mind writing me a letter of recommendation for graduate school? And she said yes. And that interaction with her, I still speak with her and I still speak with Liesl. And these are the people who have really helped impact my career and my success. And without them, it wouldn't have been quite the same. So, you know, I guess that's a success story, but it also, I think it's hard to sometimes find a mentor. And so I think, or even a sponsor, right? And finding the right one. So I think one of the most important things to do when you land a job and come into industry is to continue to network and continue to network no matter what. Always go out and say, oh, you know, I saw someone new on a phone call. Why don't I schedule a one-on-one with them and find out, you know, a little bit more about their job. You never know what you're going to find when you meet someone new. And what I've found in my journey at Merck is that I found amazing opportunities. I found friends, I found mentors, I've found sponsors, but it's taken longer to find the right mentors and the right sponsors. And it's still a journey. And the more mentors and the more sponsors you can find, the better your opportunity, the better support that you have while navigating your career. You know, different people you can reach out for their expertise. You know, sometimes I do data science projects in all types of different parts of the pharmaceutical industry, sometimes manufacturing, sometimes research. And it always helps to have somebody that I can reach out and say, hey, what do you know about this in research? And they can always point me to someone else. So never stop networking. You never know if you'll find a mentor, a sponsor, a colleague, a friend, or a new family member, or maybe all of the above.
Thank you, Anna and Dana. I think that's important, right? That the networking piece is key and that should never stop. It's a part of growing and a part of learning. And I think one of the key things that I think about my mentors, the mentors are the people that you trust, that you can tell the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Because they're supposed to help you build, they're supposed to help you develop professionally. They can tell you, these are your weak points, this is how I think you need to progress. And your mentor can be your sponsor because they can speak for you in rooms where you aren't. And sometimes you may just have a sponsor that's not your mentor, they just really know your work. So it's really important to understand who's who in your network and make sure you have a diverse network. If you look at your network, they should not all look the same, or they shouldn't all look like you. Right, I did a networking mapping exercise in terms of what does my network look like, and really early on in my career, it was people who were female or African American, plain and simple, because that's who I was more comfortable with. But I noticed the pivot in my career when I started to diversify my network and my mentors, where I had people who did not look like me, who could give me different feedback, who had different voices in different rooms. And so really look at that when you switch gears. So Monty and Jared, you know, as we think about networking and mentoring and sponsorship, getting professional degrees, applying your learnings, as a job applicant, how can students really stand out in the recruitment process? So what do you guys look for and what makes a student stand out?
Jared, do you want to go first?
Yep, got it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Sure. So something that I tell folks that I mentee or kind of talk with is the brilliant basics, right? So there's like just some core things that you should be doing as an applicant. And I've done a good amount of recruiting just this year. I've attended some different conferences and what have you. And it's really easy to tell like who wants it and who's just there. So when you're engaging with a recruiter or, you know, an HR specialist or hiring manager, what do you know about the organization that you're trying to be a member of, right? You really have to put in the groundwork and the effort on the front end. Like I'll give you an example that I was on an interview for an internship because my group does have two open. shameless plug there. And when we were asking the candidate what did they know about Merck, or they couldn't even tell us one product that we sold there, you know what I mean? So it's just doing your homework, being intentional, and presenting your best self, right? Because there's thousands and thousands of people who want to be in that position. So what separates you from them? And then also, we kind of talked about this a little bit with the MBA, but being deliberate. Like, what is your vision, right? Like, do you want to come be at Merck or whatever company you're looking at just because that's you saw them on the Fortune 500, or you just were scrolling on CNBC and, you know, kind of picked one? Or do you really have a vision? And kind of, as I alluded on my introduction slide, it's impactful work, right? So taking that seriously. Vaccines for kids, right? There's a multitude of things that really have that vision. And you may not have it perfectly, right? And I'm one of those people who definitely doesn't have it all figured out. No one does. But if you know what your passions are and what road you want to start down, really just presenting that and bringing your best self to a hiring manager is what I'd say.
Thanks, Jared. Monty?
Yeah, I think Jared is spot on. It's preparation, right? Preparation is a demonstration of how we would think that you'll perform in the role, right? So if you're not prepared to meet us, discuss, understand the company, clean up your resume, apply, then what will happen when you start with us, right? I would 100%, and I think a lot of people think it's about like, do I have the highest GPA? Do I have all of the accolades? Do I have all of the sports and activities and all of that? I would 100% have somebody who didn't have all of those things, but had a growth mindset, who was interested, who was passionate, who wanted to learn, who wanted to develop, who was adaptable and receptive to feedback. That is your future leader, right? Somebody who can collaborate and work well with others. We can teach you what you need to know when you get to the company, right? So if you don't have your 4.000, that's okay, right? Because we can bring you in and we can coach you and we can upskill you. So it's more about, do you want to be there, right? And are you demonstrating that you want to be there and you're willing to put in the work through that application process? Then we're willing to put in 10 times that amount of effort to help you grow and accelerate the company. And so some things that Jared mentioned, right? Learning about the company is really important. We want to make sure that you're going to be happy here. I think the interview process is just as much about you finding about the company as much as it is us finding out about you. You want to make sure that you're finding a place that you're excited about and that you're thrilled to come work at every day. And so some things, though, if you feel like you are at the right company and you're approaching the area you want to be, the resume, take the time, like Anna said, to go find mentors with your professors, with your friends, people who are older than you in the classes above you, to get coaching on your resume. When a resume is really, really clean, free of typos, free of misspoken words, the formatting is, messed up, those things, it might seem small, but that extra 10 to 15 minutes to fix that up really matters, because as a recruiter, you might be looking at 300 candidates. So when you see one, that makes it very easy for me as the recruiter to see what you've accomplished and what you can bring to the table. That just removes the distractions for me. I can focus on what you're really writing down rather than being focused on the formatting. So that's one. The other part is, Jared mentioned earlier about, business school helps you think about how to quantify things, right? Quantify your accomplishments. It might be you worked on a project. You could say, I finished this project. Or you could say, I worked with 20 different experts across 5 different groups to achieve this project ahead of the deadline. That is really impactful. And then the third thing is, when it comes to the interview, I think it always helps to do mock interviews. Like, I think we all still do them, even when you're fully working in the company. I know every job that I've interviewed for, even within Merck, I do mock interviews and practice with folks, because it's good to get the, like, how do you say it? I'm doing it right now, like the fumbles of the words, get it out of your system before you go into the room. Yeah. But also practicing really helps you think about what you're seeking to get out of the role and what your end goals are. And that will come through. And then the last part I'll say is, it's so cheesy, but be yourself, right? If you try to put on a face for that interview, it's going to be clear to you and it's going to be clear to the interviewers. We really want to know who you are. And that's what's going to ultimately lead to your success, even when you start with the company, is we really commit into the people that we're interviewing with. And so I think you'll find that everybody on the call today had really interesting and diverse backgrounds. And so you could have any kind of background and come into the company and be successful. So don't feel like you have to demonstrate a certain model of what you think we're looking for. We're just looking to get to know you, and that's what's most important.
So I hope you guys were taking notes feverishly, because I was, because they dropped some nuggets, right? So Jared had his brilliant basics, right? Just have the basics down and be deliberate. And so I know we're not in an environment we can go to career fairs, but I've been at career fairs where I see students stand in line and they get up to me and they say, well, what does your company do? You've been standing in line for about 10, 15 minutes. You could have looked on your cell phone to look Merck up. So leverage the internet to understand what these companies do. Monty said, preparation, demonstration of how I think you will perform in the role. I wrote that down because that's a Monty, you should trademark that, because I really like that. Like that, even that's just in personal life, that's everywhere. And that's really important. Your resume, eliminate distractions, and also know your resume, right? Know who you are, have an elevator pitch, something you can speak to really quickly. Like if you meet someone in passing, what can you tell them that they want to stay connected with you? So I hope you guys are taking notes or rewatch the recording and take notes and highlight everything that Monty and Jared just said. So I'm looking at the time, and I want to jump to a question around one, why Merck? And then also, what are some of the things at Merck that have helped you in your career, that help build a sense of community, especially when we operate in this virtual environment? So I'll start with Jared, and let's keep it down to a minute. And I'll be timing you because I want to make sure we have time for the students to ask questions and for our group picture at the end.
Yeah, can you just repeat the back half? It's why Merck, and what's the second part of the question?
And then, just in terms of how we're working now, what are some of the things that have helped you build a sense of community and help you work differently with the virtual environment that we're in now?
Okay.
COVID.
Yep.
So it's kind of a three-part question. Try to,
All good. So I touched on this, in my introduction. If any of you guys weren't here on time, we did see that, by the way. Kidding. But being able to make vaccines, right, and life-saving medicines is something that's really, like, once you get into it and you kind of see the impact. And in my introduction slide, I was able to manufacture a vaccine that directly went to my child. So that making that difference and kind of seeing some of the campaigns, especially that Merck has going on in some of the underdeveloped countries, the third world countries, and looking to kind of improve the quality of life globally, like it's pretty cool to be a part of that. So I enjoyed that. In terms of the kind of the virtual space and kind of how we're working together now, just really being patient and being and understanding, right, my strategic listening, my ability to prioritize, but most importantly, like being empathetic towards my peers, right? So like I mentioned, I have a 6-year-old, like I have to take a break in the middle of my day to do first grade homework, right? So it's like I have to stop, do the homework, and then get back online. And just this company itself has been really great about it. So like, I'm really happy to be a part of the organization because it's been received warmly, and it's been I've been home now like 7-8 months, something like that. And we're just, I don't see when we're going back personally. So it's been good to be able to have that support with this company.
Thank you. Monty, I'm only going by how I see people on the screen now. So I'm just going through the list.
So why Merck? For me, it was personal. So my mom is a cancer survivor. So I'm really proud of what we do every day. And I'm proud to be a part of a company that has really strong ethics and integrity and does what's right for the patients. Also, I feel like anything that I've ever wanted to do, Merck has it, which I don't know if you would know from the outside, right? Like Asia Pacific Association, drones, like virtual reality, like anything that you're interested in, we're probably doing it, which I think is really cool and really exciting. And then in terms of adapting, it's definitely different. I really loved like being around my colleagues at work, but I think checking in with each other on casual, shooting an IM, just saying hello, and then also just giving ourselves grace, right? It's okay if you're not having a great day. We're all human at the end of it.
Thank you, Monty. Danella, I see you next.
Yes, I think why I picked Merck, I mean, like I said before, this has been the company where I did start my career, and I've been here for 10 years already. So, and why have I stayed at Merck? And a lot of it, I think, has to do because of the values, and very much like Nancy mentioned, the integrity of this company. And a lot of it too, it comes back to just a lot of the work Merck does is very meaningful, and it really resonates with the values I have, and not just within medicine, but with the company as a whole, with the company really valuing diversity, valuing inclusion. Um, if a company did not have it, I don't think I would be here, right? I would definitely want to be always be able to find a company that not necessarily I fit the company, but the company fits me as well, right? And aligns with what I truly believe in, and what truly I find meaningfulness too. Within the virtual space, I think, I've been working from home for a while too, very similar to Jared. I have two kids where they're here and I have to help them out. But sometimes just some days blend in. So I would suggest, and I think recommend, just really to make sure you take breaks before you sit down. Make sure you either go for a run or a walk before you sit for the next 4 or 5 hours, or hopefully you're not sitting that long, but make sure you take those breaks, because I have also unfortunately started suffering from backaches, and because you're sitting too long. Now I have a stand-up desk, but make sure you take those breaks, right? And make sure when you disconnect, really do disconnect from everything, your laptop, your phones, and just find time for yourself.
Thank you. And Anna.
Yeah, so I would say what I originally came to Merck because I met my former boss who really captured my heart and my mind. And it was through our conversations that I felt like him and I could change the world with the technology that we were interested in, which was data science and how that relates to life sciences. And I felt like anything was possible. And I felt like we had the flexibility and understanding to be able to innovate. So that was the first reason I came to Merck. And then what's really kept me here is the people and the community and the family that I've built. I am part of Merck Rainbow Alliance. I do recruiting and outreach. I'm pansexual. I use she, her, and they, them pronouns. And so I've come into this incredible family at Merck, in Merck Rainbow Alliance, where I found support to do things and get involved in diversity and inclusion in ways that I never imagined would be possible. We've gone around and we've raised money to pilot different conferences and sponsorships throughout the company, throughout the enterprise, to raise awareness around diversity and inclusion in the LGBTQ+ community and allyship, and how we can get involved more with allies. I'm a member of LEAD, which is our League of Employees of African Descent. And how can we, if I am in a room and I see something, how can I speak out to make things better for my friends, for my colleagues, for my family? That's why I'm at Merck.
Thank you. I think everyone did a wonderful job, and you kind of summarized all of the feelings that I have about Merck. Merck is a culture, and even though you may go to a department and the culture may feel different, but overall it's a company of integrity. It's about people and inclusion as well as diversity. And so I think that's why we're all here and we're all smiling and we're happy. And so I want to make sure that we get the students, you guys, an opportunity to ask questions. We have about 10 minutes left. So we want to get Q&A done. I have a closing slide and a call to action. And then we want to do a group shot. So that's why we asked for people to have their cameras on. So Kevin, are you doing the group shot? Am I doing the group shot? Are you doing the screenshot, Kevin? All right, Kevin's doing the group shot. So if you have any questions, can you please put them in the chat? Or Kevin, if you're gonna unmute people, I'm not monitoring the chat, so. Are there questions in the chat, Kevin? No questions?
I don't see any yet, Elise.
So no one has any questions. All your questions are answered. You've got life figured out, and you're good to go. You don't need Merck, right? I just want to make sure we're clear here.
We've unmuted so that they can ask questions, as well as we'll be monitoring the chat.
Okay.
I'd like to ask the first question, if you don't mind.
Introduce
And
yourself.
Nia?
Hi, my name is Nia Drayton. I'm a sophomore majoring in bioengineering at North Carolina A&T in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I just want to say this is an amazing presentation and it was really informative. I was definitely taking notes. I really appreciate this. I guess my question is, what would you say is the most effective way to increase your network on the undergraduate level?
Does anyone have a
I can take a stab at this one. And I'll use an example. A NACME scholar reached out to me like 3 days ago on LinkedIn. I don't know if they saw a flyer for this or what have you, but they found me somehow, and I found out that they're coming to Merck in the summer and they're going to be coming to the exact department that I'm working in. So I would say be bold, right? Like, what's the worst that could happen to you? If you send a LinkedIn request to someone or shoot an email or a message to someone, the worst they could do is ignore it. You're going to be in the same spot that you were beforehand. You know what I mean? Like, you lose nothing from that. And that's a big lesson that I've learned like in the last 12 to 18 months. Like, I used to only kind of network to at least kind of touch on it with my peers or people that look like me. And now I am quick to send an email to a vice president and ask for 15 minutes on the calendar just to kind of pick their brain and learn from them. So really just be deliberate and be bold. But as an undergraduate, when you look around this room, these are going to be your peers 10, 15 years from now. So you never know where you may still stumble across someone in the future. I did not network enough in undergrad. And now I see people on LinkedIn that are crushing it. And I'm like, man, I didn't really invest the time in that relationship. When I was young, I just wanted to, be a Kappa and party and do my thing. And I should have been investing in some of those relationships, because now, fast forward, it could have been different. So be bold, be deliberate, and just be intentional.
Yeah, everything that Jared said, I think he hit all the points. And LinkedIn is your friend. I get so many requests on LinkedIn. I met a student right before this meeting who went to Temple who just wanted to chat, and then we chatted. So you just never know. You might just hit the jackpot.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I would say another way too is joining the different affinity groups at your school, like Society of Women Engineers or National Society of Black Engineers, or those types of groups have they have student chapters, but they also have professional networks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can tap into those professional networks, if it's at a virtual conference or through a regional meeting or something of that, like I also made lots of friends and industry contacts that way, who served as mentors and also recommended me for roles that I was interested in. So that's also a great way to get involved.
I'm in SWE, so that's great to hear.
Yeah, SWE is awesome. I was part of SWE and I started a chapter of Out in STEM as well. And I'm still involved with Out in STEM today through recruiting. And it's like the happiest thing to see students. I was a student of OSTEM, and to see students now coming to me, and I really want to help them because I see myself so much in them. So maybe that will be you one day when you're in industry, you'll be reaching back out down to SWE and recruiting. And that's the pay it forward kind of mentality, I love to see and really foster that.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Anna. So I changed the slides. I want to make sure you guys can, if you scan this QR code, you can upload your resume directly to the Merck site. So while we're continuing to go through Q&A, the QR code can be used so that you can upload your resume and stay in touch. Is there anyone else who had a question, or is there anything else in the chat?
There's a couple here in the chat, Elise. I can send some of these to you. What professional development opportunities are there at Merck as an engineer?
Yeah, so Elise, I could take this one.
Yeah.
So the affinity groups that Anna just mentioned are a really big part of this. So within Merck, we have 10 different employee business resource groups. That includes a next generation network, veterans, League of African American Employees, LGBTQ+, and the list goes on. Tons of ways for you to interact with colleagues, and you're welcome to join any and all of those. But we also have a series of accelerated development programs. So you could come into a rotational program from the start, or when you join the site, a lot of departments will allow you to take on stretch projects and opportunities. We actually have a global, essentially, I guess, a job special opportunity board. I don't know how else to say it. It's called our Workday Opportunity Marketplace, where you can actually apply to take on stretch projects from any division in the company. And then throughout your time at Merck, oftentimes your teams will put you up for special trainings or maybe send you to conferences. So there's tons and tons of opportunities within the company. It's just about, maybe just getting your foot in the door, and then the opportunities are endless.
Great. I see now I see all the questions. I opened up the chat window. So we have 4 minutes left, and I want to make sure that maybe some of these questions may be best for the entire group. So in terms of upcoming opportunities, so this QR code is the opportunity for you guys to share your resume with us. And then Phil, not sure if you can speak to any upcoming intern opportunities and or graduate opportunities for 2021.
Yes. So please take a second and scan that. So this is how we're going to kind of keep in touch with all of you about some of those opportunities that we have. So we do have a large number of internship roles for those of you who are maybe graduating this spring and going on to graduate school in the fall. We have a lot of opportunities for internships posted right now. We'll also be posting a number of roles for folks starting in August. So anybody who's graduating in the spring and you're starting a full-time role in August, those will be coming out here within the next few weeks. And so we're going to use this list that we generate from this QR code to make sure that we're keeping all of you abreast on those opportunities. So please make sure you just take a second, even if you don't upload your resume right away, just make sure that you add your email to our system so that we can keep in touch with you.
Thank you, Phil. One question one person asked, you guys mentioned you have some opportunities abroad. How are you involved in global healthcare? So just really quick as a footnote, go check out our Merck website. We are a global company where we have sites all over the world, and we, distribute our products worldwide. And so that's how we're involved, right? We've supported the Ebola vaccine. We're doing all of our vaccines are pretty much global. We're not just in a US-based company. So I encourage you guys to just take a minute to go look at the Merck website to see where we are in the world. But we are definitely a global pharmaceutical company and deeply involved in global healthcare. And 2 minutes left. There's a question about how often do you switch roles within Merck, and what recommendations do you have to best adapt within your new roles? And so I want to kick this one to Monsi, because we have the MLDP program and then they transition into real life Merck. But I want Monsi to spotlight the MLP program quickly. And then if anyone else wants to, if anyone else wants to chime in about their roles and how often they switch. Monsi.
Yep, so if you join the Manufacturing Leadership Development Program, this is our accelerated development program coming into the company. And there are a number of other rotational programs that are site-based, but this one is global. It's a 3-year accelerated program, so you're changing roles every year. But if you're going into another program or a full-time engineering or supply chain position, early in your career, I would say that after your first 2 years is a good time to switch. Some managers might hate me for saying that because they're going to want to keep and develop you, but I'd say maybe switching every 2 years early in your career. And then once you're at about that 5-year point, people might start to take a little bit more extended time in the roles that they're more interested in as they move vertically.
Jared, Anna, Danella, any additions before we close out?
Yes, I can add something to that. I mean, I think a lot of the times, it's good to have a good transparent conversations with management. Also, they're always open to see if you can have rotational opportunities. A lot of times, for example, our department offers to have rotational opportunities within for a year or extended period of time, perhaps in another department. If you, for example, are very well versed in the vaccines analytical research and development, you can, have that opportunity to have a rotation within the biologic side for a year. Then you're really gaining a lot of different insights from across the organization, the different modalities. So that's another way sometimes in your own department, just, sometimes, just talking to management, they can provide you those opportunities as well too, to not necessarily switch the roles, but switch the knowledge or just gain more knowledge. Within roles, there's always something, it's very self-driven, right? There are other opportunities you can constantly keep applying for in other areas of the organization that perhaps an experience you already gained could be used in another department as well.
Great, thank you. And maybe that's a shameless plug for maybe a part 2, right, Kevin, about career mapping and career development. I think, we have a lot of people within Merck that can really shed some light on what does that look like as early entrants into corporate America? How do you map out your career and think about what are the things you love, what are some of the things you don't like to do, and how do you map your career out? So shameless plug as we continue to stay connected, but I want to respect time and thank you to our panelists, including Phil, who was our pseudo panelist. But thank you guys for sharing your experience that you have. Kevin, thank you for extending this opportunity to Merck to be able to come in and talk to the students. And I hope the students were taking notes on the names of the panelists. I encourage you to add everyone here on LinkedIn. And if I don't have at least 5 LinkedIn requests, I'm sending Kevin a note like, we're not coming back. But this is how you network, right? We talked about this. And so thank you guys. Kevin, I don't know if you can capture some of the other questions that we may have not had an opportunity to answer, but it's been a pleasure to spend time with you guys. Continue to grow, be big, be comfortable being uncomfortable. And, you know, the worst you can hear is no. And if you don't, every answer that you don't ask is going to be an automatic no. So just go for it and shoot your shot.